It all started with a missing box of hiking gear. I'm Warren Beckett. I've lived in the Hollow Pines subdivision for 6 years now. Quiet street, decent neighbors, and unfortunately governed by one of the most obnoxiously power-hungry HOAs in the state. And at the center of it all? Regina Fairbanks, the HOA president. Mid-50s, bleach blonde bob, sunglasses the size of dinner plates, and a voice that could sand drywall. She's the kind of woman who reminds you that your lawn is half an inch too long while holding a clipboard like it's a badge. I've had my fair share of run-ins with her over the years, but nothing that crossed the line. Until last month. I had ordered a new pair of hiking boots, a hydration pack, and a GPS watch. I was planning a weekend trip to the mountains with my buddy. The package was marked, delivered by the carrier on a Wednesday morning. But when I got home from work that evening, nothing. Not a single box on my porch. I figured maybe they dropped it at the wrong house, so I walked around and checked with a couple neighbors. Nobody had it. Friday, I called the delivery company. They confirmed it had been dropped off at my address at 10:07 a.m. with a photo. The photo showed the box sitting right on my front steps, clear as day. I stared at that picture for a long time. You could even see the corner of my welcome mat. So where did it go? That weekend, I installed a doorbell camera and 2 motion-triggered cameras, one pointed at the porch, the other angled toward the street. I didn't expect much. I figured it was a one-time thing. But the following Tuesday, I got a notification at work. Motion detected. I opened the app and watched, live, as Regina Fairbanks strutted up my walkway in her ridiculous pink windbreaker and wedge sandals. Looked around, then picked up a small Amazon box I just received right off my porch and walked off. No hesitation. No shame. Couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped. I rewound the footage, watched it again, slower. Same thing. She didn't even try to hide it. That night, I walked across the street and knocked on her door. She answered, already annoyed. "What now, Warren?" she snapped, arms crossed, tapping a pen against her clipboard. "You stole my package," I said calmly. "I have it on video." Her expression didn't even twitch. "Excuse me? I don't know what you're talking about. I got a motion alert. I saw you walk right up and take it. I checked your porch because we've had reports of suspicious activity," she said, like she rehearsed it. "I was ensuring HOA property security. That's my responsibility. It wasn't HOA property. It was my front porch. And you walked away with the box." Regina straightened her back. "If you're going to accuse someone of theft, I suggest you get a lawyer. And remember, I can fine you for that camera if it violates HOA visual compliance regulations." She slammed the door. That was it. I was done playing nice. I downloaded the footage, made 3 copies, and walked into the police department the next morning. I filed an official theft report and handed them the evidence. And then, just to make sure she couldn't weasel her way out, I posted the footage on the Hollow Pines community forum, the one she used to post lawn violation screenshots and passive-aggressive reminders. Within 24 hours, it had over 200 comments. And that's when people started talking. Turns out I wasn't the only one missing packages. Not even close. Saturday morning came in unusually quiet for Hollow Pines. Normally by 8, Regina's circulation of morning violation slips would be well underway, left like breadcrumbs on mailboxes and door handles. But this time, not a peep. I walked outside to mow the lawn and saw something strange. Her car was gone and her porch lights were off. Didn't take long for a few neighbors to wander over, one after the other. "Warren," said Daryl from 2 doors down, a retired firefighter with a boxer named Scout. "Saw your video. That's her, all right. You gonna press charges?" "I already filed the report," I said, checking over the mower's fuel line. "Officer Ramirez said they're reviewing it with the DA." Daryl nodded thoughtfully. About time someone stood up to her. "My wife lost a prescription package last month. We figured porch pirates, but now." He didn't finish his sentence. He didn't need to. By Monday, the Hollow Pines forum had turned into a full-blown whistleblower hub. Residents were comparing missing delivery dates, confirming drop-offs, and matching the time windows. A pattern emerged: every package that vanished had been left during weekday mornings, almost always before noon, and usually when neighbors were at work. The common thread? All the thefts happened on streets Regina routinely patrolled. Then came a post from Lisa Tran, a pharmacist and mother of two. Check your HOA violation slips. I found one dated the same day my kid's birthday present vanished. Same time Amazon said it was delivered. People started digging through drawers. Sure enough, a dozen people found the same thing. Regina had left handwritten citations on their doors within an hour of their confirmed deliveries. It wasn't just theft anymore. She was using her HOA rounds as cover to steal. I received a call Tuesday afternoon from Detective Mora with the County Sheriff's Department. She'd been assigned the case after one of the officers flagged it for a pattern of serial petty theft with potential abuse of a civil authority office. We're treating this as more than just isolated porch theft, she said. It's possible that she's been using her position to gain access, and that elevates it. I asked her if the HOA's authority changed anything. Not in the eyes of the law, she said. HOA's not a law enforcement agency. If she's taking property, it's theft. The badge on her clipboard might impress your neighbors, but it doesn't mean anything in court. Wednesday morning, 2 unmarked cruisers parked across from Regina's home. I watched through my living room window as they approached and knocked. She opened the door, stepped out in a beige tracksuit, and after speaking briefly, was led away in handcuffs. It was surreal. No clipboard, no sunglasses, just her, silent and wide-eyed. As the camera from a local news van pulled up and started recording, the forum exploded. People weren't just surprised, they were angry. One neighbor, Martin, a software engineer who had lived in Hollow Pines for less than a year, wrote a detailed post about the fine Regina issued him for a non-compliant mailbox on the same day his laptop order was marked as delivered and then lost. Another neighbor, elderly Mrs. Gibbons, said her property tax check had vanished from her outgoing mail slot and never made it to the county office. The deeper we looked, the worse it got. Turns out Regina had been intercepting packages for over a year, small ones, usually electronics, cosmetics, tools, gift cards. She never hit the same house twice in a row. She was careful, calculated. She even logged which homes had cameras and avoided them until recently. Detective Mora confirmed this during a neighborhood meeting held at the local library. The place was packed, standing room only. Mora stood at the front with a projector and a stack of evidence bags. She used her position to mask her movements, Mora explained. We found a storage unit under her name. Inside were dozens of unopened packages, many of which match reported thefts. There were also handwritten notes cataloging addresses, delivery estimates, and a list titled "No Cams." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Is she going to jail? Someone called from the back. The DA is filing charges for theft, mail tampering, and misuse of authority. Given the volume, we're looking at felony levels. Someone else asked about the HOA. Mora shook her head. That's a civil matter. But if the HOA board was aware or turned a blind eye, they could be liable too. That's when things turned. Several residents began demanding access to board meeting minutes. The HOA had always been a closed-door operation, Regina claimed, that was to maintain order. But now people wanted transparency. They wanted names. They wanted answers. A copy of the HOA's bylaws was circulated, and it turned out Regina had amended them last year to consolidate decision-making power into an emergency executive structure, essentially granting herself sole authority in most matters. The signatures approving the change? All forged. At least 3 board members had no memory of signing anything. I took this information to Councilwoman Ayanna Morris. I'd met her once during a fundraiser for a local park and remembered she was a former corporate attorney. She agreed to review the documents and looped in a municipal oversight attorney. Within days, a formal complaint was filed against the Hollow Pines HOA for governance violations, document forgery, and failure to conduct elections as required under state law. Councilwoman Morris didn't stop there. She called a town hall at the community center and invited the press. The residents of Hollow Pines deserve accountability, she said, standing at the podium. This is a clear case of systemic abuse under the guise of community management. We will not allow HOAs to operate like shadow governments. Cheers erupted. Regina's arrest had cracked the dam, and now everything behind it was flooding out: financial audits, missing invoices, unexplained security fees on annual statements. The HOA was unraveling. But it wasn't over yet. The interim board, hastily assembled from volunteers, announced a forensic audit of the HOA's finances. Within a week, they found over $20,000 in unaccounted funds. Payments made to consultants with no traceable business licenses. Checks made out to a Pine Watch Security, which turned out to be a shell company registered under Regina's cousin's name. A class action lawsuit was filed by over 30 residents citing financial misconduct, property interference, and emotional distress. I was asked to be one of the lead plaintiffs, given the original footage that triggered the investigation. I agreed. By the following month, the HOA had been placed under external receivership while the state attorney general's office reviewed the case. Regina's trial was scheduled for the fall. Her lawyer tried to argue mental health issues, but the evidence of calculated planning made that a hard sell. At the next community meeting, I stood up during the open forum. We got used to thinking we had no say, I said. That we just had to take it. But we're the neighborhood, not the HOA. Not a clipboard and a few rules printed in size 10 font. Us. People clapped. Some stood. It wasn't just about the packages anymore. It was about taking back our street. And we weren't done yet. The first board meeting under the interim leadership took place in the Hollow Pines elementary cafeteria. Fold-out chairs, fluorescent lights, and a whiteboard with "Emergency HOA Restructuring" scribbled across it in dry erase marker. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. For years, Regina had refused to allow meetings anywhere but the country club banquet room she insisted on renting with HOA funds. Now, 53 homeowners sat shoulder to shoulder over plastic chairs, eating cookies someone's kid had brought from a bake sale. I arrived 10 minutes early and found Councilwoman Morris already there, flipping through a binder. She wore a navy blue blazer and a look that meant business. "Warren," she said, not looking up, "we found something worse." I pulled out the chair next to her. "Worse than the forged signatures?" She tapped a page in her binder. "There's a second bank account, not listed in the HOA's annual reports. It's been active for almost 2 years. My stomach tightened. "How much?" "Just over $84,000. Withdrawals match up with the dates of those phony security audits and the paving project that never happened. They actually cashed the checks?" "They did more than that," she said. "They funneled the funds into a real estate holding company under Regina's name. She bought 2 foreclosed properties in a nearby township. Both were flipped and sold 6 months later." I just stared at her. She used HOA money to fund property deals? No question. And it's wire fraud, bank fraud, and embezzlement. The FBI's been looped in. Financial Crimes Division. They're pulling tax records now. The meeting opened with a bang. Interim chairperson Dana Hargrove, a school librarian with a voice that could flatten a rowdy classroom in seconds, stood front and center. "We're here to take control of our community back," she said. "The former leadership acted without transparency, without accountability, and in violation of state civil code. That ends today." People applauded, but it wasn't the polite kind. It was cathartic. Every clap sounded like a nail driven into Regina Fairbanks' coffin. Dana introduced the forensic auditor, a wiry woman named Julie Cortez. She didn't waste time. There are 3 accounts tied to the HOA. Only one was disclosed in annual reports. The second was used to transfer funds to what appeared to be a vendor, Pine View Operations, which doesn't exist as a licensed business. The third account leads to a brokerage used for personal real estate transactions. A man in the third row stood. I recognized him, Marcus, a contractor who'd moved in last spring. Were board members aware of this? Julie shook her head. Only one name appears on the access logs. Regina Fairbanks. The room fell silent. A woman near the back spoke up. What does that mean for us legally? Are we liable? Councilwoman Morris stepped forward. No, but you are victims of financial fraud. And as such, you're entitled to restitution. I've already filed a motion with the county court requesting a freeze on all HOA accounts until the investigation concludes. Another voice cut in. What about dues? Are we still paying her bills? No, Dana said. Effective immediately, all payments are suspended. The interim board is working with the county to audit every past expenditure and determine what's recoverable. I leaned over to Morris. If she sold those properties already, is there any way to get the money back? She nodded. We'll seize the gains if we can prove the capital came from the stolen funds. It'll take time, but the court can claw it back. After the meeting, I stepped outside to get some air. That's when a man in a dark gray windbreaker approached me. He had the kind of posture that screamed law enforcement, even without the badge. Mr. Beckett? I nodded. Special Agent Rivas, FBI? Mind if I walk with you? Sure. He kept his pace even. Did you ever receive notification of a lien from the HOA? No, I said. Why? Several homeowners did. We pulled the registrar data. Regina filed fabricated lien claims against 6 properties. Claimed unpaid dues, late fines, and unauthorized modifications. I stopped walking. She didn't mention that in the violations. That's because she never sent notices. She filed them directly with the county, hoping people wouldn't check. When properties went up for sale, she used the liens to demand settlement fees. Did anyone pay? One couple paid over $5,000 just to close on their home. Another lost their buyer when the lien couldn't be cleared in time. I clenched my fists. That's extortion. It is. And it's a federal offense if it involves falsified legal instruments. Why didn't they fight back? They didn't know it was fake. That's how she operated. Couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the couple who lost their home sale, about how close I'd come to just ignoring that missing package. If I hadn't caught her on camera, she might still be walking up porches with that fake authority and a smile. The next day, the county clerk's office issued a public statement. All liens filed under Regina Fairbanks' name were suspended pending investigation. Title insurance offices were notified. The homeowners affected were contacted directly. Then something unexpected happened. A man I'd never met knocked on my door. He introduced himself as Sam Heller, a former HOA board member who had resigned 2 years ago. I didn't know what she was doing, not all of it, he said. But I knew something was off. She stopped letting us vote on budgets. Said it was an emergency clause. When I questioned it, she said I wasn't aligned with the vision. He handed me an envelope. These are meeting recordings. I took them because she kept contradicting herself, and I wanted a record. I think you'll want to hear what's on them. There were 6 USB drives inside, each labeled with a date. I plugged the first one into my laptop and hit play. Regina's voice came through clearly. I don't care what the bylaws say. If they want their little dog park, they can pay for it themselves. We're not wasting HOA funds on swing sets and doggy bags. Another voice, Heller's, cut in. That's not your call to make. We're supposed to vote. Votes are suggestions, she said. I signed the checks. The recordings got worse. One captured her discussing how to fine out a family she didn't like. Another revealed her giving instructions to ignore maintenance requests from homeowners who don't cooperate. My favorite was the one where she openly bragged about tampering with a landscaping contract for kickbacks. I sent the files to Morris and Agent Rivas. Within 48 hours, a second criminal case was opened, this one for conspiracy, falsification of records, and abuse of fiduciary duty. Regina's lawyer tried to cut a deal. The DA rejected it. The court set her trial date and denied bail due to the risk of flight. Her assets were frozen, including the 2 properties she'd flipped. The interim board held a vote to dissolve the current HOA charter and draft a new one under county supervision. Passed unanimously. I was asked to serve on the drafting committee. I agreed under one condition: Every meeting would be open to the public, recorded, and published online. No more closed doors. No more shadow rules. At our first committee session, Dana passed me a folder. "Thought you'd like to name the transparency clause," she said. I wrote the title at the top, "The Beckett Provision." She laughed. "Fitting." We passed it unanimously. Change came fast after that. The Hollow Pines HOA was restructured, re-registered, and rebranded as a residents' council with limited regulatory powers and full financial transparency. Dues were cut in half. Violations required photographic evidence and board approval. Surveillance devices were explicitly protected under the new privacy clause. Regina's trial began 4 months later. The courtroom was packed. She wore a gray suit and glasses, trying to look like the misunderstood civil servant. But the jury didn't buy it. Not with the audio files, the video footage, the financial records, or the testimony from over 30 homeowners. She was convicted on 15 counts, including mail theft, financial fraud, wire fraud, and falsifying legal documents. Sentenced to 11 years with restitution ordered to cover all damages. She never looked back at the gallery as they let her out. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked me if I ever imagined it would go this far. "No," I said. "I just wanted my boots." Everyone laughed. But deep down, we all knew it had never really been about the packages. It had been about power, how easily it's abused, and how rare it is for someone to push back. Not anymore. Not in Hollow Pines. The town felt different after Regina's conviction. Lighter. The fake calm that had hung over Hollow Pines like a plastic tarp was gone, replaced with real conversations on porches, open garage doors on weekends, and neighbors waving without hesitation. It was like everyone had finally exhaled. But something still didn't sit right with me. I kept thinking about that second bank account, the one with over $84,000 that had been used to buy and flip properties. The funds were recovered, but there had been more movement in that account than just those transactions. I knew the audit team had reviewed it, but something kept gnawing at me. A line item I'd seen at the town hall weeks ago stuck in my mind. Consulting fees vendor M. Farley. I hadn't seen that name before, and it wasn't on any of the vendor contracts Regina had claimed to authorize. So I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the county clerk's office. It took 5 days, but they sent over the account activity logs and registered vendor IDs. I cross-referenced the ID for M. Farley with the state's contractor license database. Nothing came up. I dug deeper and ran the address listed under the vendor's invoice through the property database. It was an empty lot, just a patch of dirt off Highway 28. No building, no mailbox, no utilities. I brought the information to Dana and Councilwoman Morris the next evening. We met in the back room of the community center where the HOA documents were still being archived. Dana leaned over the table, flipping through the pages. "This vendor shows 6 payments over 7 months. Morris adjusted her glasses. All just under $5,000. Small enough to avoid triggering mandatory tax disclosures. I tapped the corner of the invoice. "This is laundering." She created a fake vendor to siphon off more funds, probably using prepaid bank accounts. That's why the contractor ID doesn't exist. She was bleeding the HOA even after the property flips. Morris nodded slowly. "We need to bring this to the district attorney immediately. If there's a paper trail, we could be looking at another set of charges." The DA's office had already assigned a financial crimes liaison to the case, Assistant DA Marquez, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with a reputation for disassembling fraud schemes like clockwork mechanisms. When we handed her the data, she barely said a word. Just read through the file, page by page, then picked up her phone. "Get me a warrant for all banking activity linked to the alias M. Farley going back 3 years," she told someone on the other end. "And cross-reference it with the Hollow Pines HOA account. I want every transfer traced." 2 weeks later, Marquez called a press conference. Regina Fairbanks was indicted again, this time on federal racketeering charges. Turns out, the fake vendor wasn't just a one-time scheme. It was a front for a broader operation. Through subpoenaed emails and bank logs, Investigators uncovered that Regina had created a web of fake service companies, each with slight name variations, like Farley Property Consultants or M.F. Groundskeeping. She'd used them to pull funds from not just Hollow Pines, but 2 other HOA boards she had consulting roles with in nearby towns. All told, she'd stolen nearly $260,000 across 3 communities over 4 years. The FBI re-entered the picture. They added charges of interstate wire fraud and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. And this time, she wasn't alone. 2 former board members from another HOA were arrested as co-conspirators. They'd signed off on fake contracts in exchange for kickbacks, fully aware the companies didn't exist. The only reason Hollow Pines hadn't been bled dry was because Regina held all the cards and didn't share the profits. She was greedy, Marquez said at the press conference. And that's what ultimately exposed her. Regina's plea deal evaporated. With the new charges, she was facing a minimum of 20 years. Her attorney quit. Public defender took over. The judge ordered a full restitution plan to be drafted, with mandatory asset forfeiture. Her cars, jewelry, and even a vacation cottage she'd secretly purchased under a third-party trust were seized. The money was redistributed back to the 3 HOAs. At the next Hollow Pines meeting, Dana read out the final restitution check amount. $68,000 returned to our community fund. No one clapped. No one cheered. People just nodded quietly, solemnly. Justice had been done, but it hadn't come cheap. After the meeting, I walked out with Morris. "You think that's the end of it?" I asked. "It's the end of her," she said. "But there's always another Regina waiting in the wings. What matters now is that people know how to spot them and stop them." We reached the sidewalk. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the cul-de-sac. "I still remember the first time she fined me," I said. "Over a flower bed. I thought I was just being paranoid." "You weren't," Morris replied. "She built her power on people ignoring the small things." A week later, the new HOA charter was finalized and ratified. The Beckett provision became Section 2, Article 5 of the bylaws. Every financial transaction over $1,000 now required dual signatures and mandatory digital posting within 48 hours. Vendor contracts had to be verified against state registries. And the HOA president's term limit was capped at 1 year, with no consecutive terms. The structure had changed. But more importantly, the culture had. People started showing up to meetings. Not because they were angry, because they cared. Volunteers helped rebuild the community garden Regina had shut down. A local high schooler repainted the playground equipment with donated materials. The neighborhood newsletter came back, this time run by a group of retirees who refused to let anything slide through the cracks. As for me, I stepped back from the spotlight. I didn't want to be the face of the HOA. I just wanted to enjoy my porch again. Still, every now and then, someone would stop by. "Hey, Warren," an older man said one afternoon, walking his dog past my house. "Got my new meds delivered yesterday. Left on the porch all day. Didn't even think twice." I smiled. "Glad to hear it." He tipped his hat and kept walking. Later that evening, I sat on the porch with a cold drink, watching the street. No clipboards. No suspicious glances. Just kids on bikes, sprinklers ticking across front lawns, and the distant hum of someone grilling ribs. It was a normal neighborhood again. And if anyone ever tried to change that? Well, the cameras were still up. And this time, the whole block was watching.